Red Sox and the Nationals. The Red Sox want MacKenzie Gore, and the Washington Nationals, they want prospects. And everybody, this might be the marriage that we all want.
You are Locked On MLB Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
And thank you all for making Locked On Nationals and Locked On Red Sox your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. I am the host of Locked On Nationals, Ryan Clary. That is Gabby Maljanian from Locked On Red Sox. Gabby, let's just not even get into what's coming up later on in the show, because we've got a topic at hand, and that is a MacKenzie Gore trade. So Gabby, how are you doing today?
I am doing great. It's definitely an interesting time of year because you always have so many speculations of, oh, I want my team to do this, or I want them to do this. And then you just hope that those moves get made. But we really truly don't know what's actually going to happen until they do start making moves. But I do know that the Red Sox need pitching. So here we are.
Yeah, the Red Sox need pitching and the Nationals need talent. So I feel as if, as we were saying, this is kind of a match made in heaven, because you guys have developed a ton of prospects. And I think that there are some interesting packages that could be coming our way, and that you guys could be getting a stud pitcher with MacKenzie Gore. But before we jump into it, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. And right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So download the app today. So Gabby, obviously we're doing this crossover because you want MacKenzie Gore and I want some prospects. And I feel as if that right now, the Boston Red Sox, you guys have a great farm system. And right now the Nationals are looking to get off this MacKenzie Gore thing. He's got 2 years left until he hits free agency. And are the Nationals ready to compete? Probably not. But right now, I feel as if that this is the move for the Red Sox. I feel as if right now, if I were to place a betting favorite, the Red Sox would be the team to land in MacKenzie Gore.
Yeah, the Red Sox are definitely in need of pitching. They got their ace last offseason in Garrett Crochet, but they really need a reliable number 2 starting pitcher to pair with him, because they have a bunch of people who have potential to be in this rotation. But the problem is none of them are really at the level of being a consistent number 2. So that's what they're primarily seeking this offseason. They have people who are 3s or 4s or 5s, but they don't really have that defined player where they can say, yes, this is our number 2 starting pitcher that we can trust behind Garrett Crochet in this rotation, no doubt about it. And I feel like Gore is somebody who kind of fits that mold, because he's shown a lot of consistency over the course of his career, and he's also under team control for a couple of years, like you mentioned. And the Red Sox are definitely not really looking to trade for somebody who they could risk having walk after the 2026 season, based on what they would probably have to give up for a pitcher like that.
Yeah, I think we've got a couple of packages that we'll talk about later on in the show today. So Nationals fans will definitely want to stay tuned for that. And Red Sox fans as well, what you'll be giving up, it's going to be a pretty steep package. But I think right now, with where the Nationals are and just kind of where the Red Sox are also, the Red Sox, they're ready to win. It feels as if that 2026 is going to be this season where they take a step up. Now, here's the thing with MacKenzie Gore, though. I think right now, the value for MacKenzie Gore is probably as high as it's ever been. This past deadline, actually, now that I think about it, it was definitely higher. He kind of struggled down the second half, and even just kind of getting into the bad sides of MacKenzie Gore. Now, this is the past few seasons, Gabby, that he has struggled throughout the second half. Earlier on in the season, he was leading Major League Baseball in strikeouts up until mid-June, later on in June even. And this was someone who was a really good, reliable pitcher. And here in DC, we've always thought of Gore kind of being that ace. And honestly, I think the vision was for him to end up like Garrett Crochet. I don't think a lot of Nationals fans really fully grasp how good he could be. Now, the thing is with Gore is that the idea of MacKenzie Gore has always been better than what the product has been. He's got swing and miss stuff. I mean, we saw this. He was one of the best pitchers for in-zone swing percentage in the strike zone this season. Like, that is a really impressive feat. That is really impressive just overall. But I think MacKenzie Gore, just kind of the downsides for what the Red Sox could be getting into, there are some downsides. Like, there are some consistency issues that I do think for the Nationals and their fan base, that is something that you're going to have to think about in return, because we think of him as like this number one pitcher because he's our number one pitcher. But when you're competing against guys like Mitchell Parker, which, Gabby, you may not know Mitchell Parker, and that's okay because he is not a major league quality pitcher. But you have guys in this rotation that I think kind of pad MacKenzie Gore a little bit and make him look a little bit better than what it may seem. So just kind of asking you this rhetorical question, I guess, but like, do you see some of that as well? Do you see some concerns with trading for Gore?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that second half slump that he was in is definitely a concern, because who's to say that the Red Sox trade for him and that doesn't carry over into 2026? And my concern would be the Red Sox aren't really looking for somebody who can be an average starter to pull the weight in the middle of the rotation, because they have so many of those types of guys already that can fill those types of roles. They really are just looking for that solid 1-2 punch, because outside of Garrett Crochet, they really didn't have that in 2025. And you mentioned, the Red Sox looking to win, which they 100% absolutely should be, made the postseason in 2025 with a pretty young roster. So now this is the time to improve that roster and try to really go for it and try to push for a World Series run. And in order to do that, they definitely need to have that number 2 that they could go to in a playoff game behind Garrett Crochet and no doubt trust him. And my worry with Gore would be he comes here, the Red Sox give up some great talent for him, and then he ends up having all these concerns with consistency throughout the season, and he's really not that number 2 that they were looking for. And then they're at a place where it really doesn't solve the problem that they had to begin with. So that's definitely a concern I have. But on the flip side of that, I feel like when he's at his best, he definitely, no doubt, could be a number 2 for the Red Sox. And I think number 2 because, Garrett Crochet's here. So I feel like if he is at his best, he no doubt can fill that need that the Red Sox have, because the potential is definitely there. I feel like, and you've seen him at his best, and his best is really, really good stuff. But the problem is that is a pretty big if. And my question is, are the Red Sox going to want to take a flyer on that? And I do think part of that does have to do with what the asking price would be, because I don't know that the Red Sox would be willing to give up all kinds of top prospects like the package that they gave up to get Garrett Crochet if they are uncertain in his ability to actually be consistent for the entirety of the season. And, you mentioned his first half. If we get first half MacKenzie Gore, then it's going to look like a great trade for the Red Sox. But my worry is him just not being at that level all season, and then we're looking back on it and saying, wow, this was not the guy we should have traded for, because he's not really filling that no doubt number 2 role that the Red Sox need.
Yeah, and I think that, like, again, the reason why I feel as if this is like a win-win scenario is because, again, from the Nationals' perspective, you guys have the prospects. You guys have the guys to trade over to the Nationals in this scenario. And also, you guys already have a number 1. Like, you're not expecting MacKenzie Gore to come in and be your ace. Like, you've got Garrett Crochet for a reason. And so I feel as if, like, the marriage is already there. Like, you already had the things in place for what the Nationals want, but also, as you were mentioning, for what the Red Sox want. Like, you're not going to ask for Gore to be this absolute stud. You do want him to be your number 2. And as we said, we haven't even necessarily seen his ceiling. Like, we've seen kind of glimpses of what he could be, and it's been great and it's been special. But also, that's just a glimpse. Like, you need to see the full picture of MacKenzie Gore to really understand just kind of what this guy is. Now, as you were saying, and I think as a lot of Nationals and Red Sox fans understand, MacKenzie Gore has an incredibly high ceiling. And when he is on, he is one of the best left-handed pitchers in baseball. Like, I truly do believe in that. Is he better than Garrett Crochet? No, but I do think he is in that top 5 sphere when he is on his A game. Now, that's the thing, when he's on his A game. So I think there are a couple different things. Like you may look at like the 4.07 ERA or whatever it was this year is just north of a 4 ERA. You might look at that and you're like, that guy for the amount of prospects that we'll be giving up, I'm okay on that. But also you got to kind of look deeper into it. The Nationals have had a terrible defense for years now under MacKenzie Gore. They have consistently been one of the worst defensive teams. That's just the matter of the facts, Gabby. I'm sorry. I see you laughing over there, but you're like, geez, he's being hard. That's just it. We are a bad defensive team. You have a really bad catching situation. Keibert Ruiz, who's been our starting catcher with MacKenzie Gore, he is statistically speaking the worst defensive starting catcher in all of baseball. This is an organization that does not use data and analytics. Now, fortunately with your guys, thank you guys, by the way, for Paul Taboni and Devin Pearson, we now have analytics and data inside this building in which we did not have. So I do think that MacKenzie Gore, like with an organization, I've always said this, use this as an example. If you have MacKenzie Gore in like the Tampa Bay Rays system, he would be an all-star Cy Young kind of winner. Like I truly do believe in that. So with the Red Sox, who obviously have all those same things, maybe not to the extent as the Rays, I think that he could actually max out his potential. And for Red Sox fans, that could be music to your ears. But Gabby, let's stop talking about MacKenzie Gore and let's talk about trade packages, because you guys are going to have to give up prospects and we're going to have to give up our guy MacKenzie Gore. So we'll talk about that after this. The NBA is back, and there is no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. And plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a larger payout. And it keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Maybe the Wizards are going up against the Celtics in Boston. You want to take the Wizards, not on the money line, but you want to take the over on the game. You take the Celtics on the money line, Alex Sarr over on the rebounds, and maybe even a Jaylen Brown over on points for the Boston fans there. So right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. We are back here on a Locked On Nationals and Locked On Red Sox crossover. And Gabby, we already just discussed the MacKenzie Gore, the good, the bad, but let's get into a potential trade package. And I'll start out first. Gabby, is Kristian Campbell available?
Yeah, it's funny that you asked that, because I actually did a whole segment on Kristian Campbell on my show very recently. Absolutely, yes. And the reason I say that is because the Red Sox right now, with where they are at, there is definitely some uncertainty as to whether they believe in Kristian Campbell or not to be a piece of the future of this team. He started the season on the major league roster, had a really good month of April, and then got sent back down to AAA. They were waiting for an opportunity to call him back up, and that opportunity just didn't come. And they didn't really see that exact level of progress that they wanted to see from him in order to bring him back up to the majors. Now, that being said, though, the biggest thing to note about Kristian Campbell is that he's a really versatile player. He can play in the infield. He can play in the outfield. They gave him a lot of first base reps in Worcester this season. So he really can play a few different positions, which is something that other teams could find really attractive about Campbell. And with the Red Sox, things are up in the air with first base for them right now. I mean, they have Tristan Casas, who suffered a season-ending injury in May of 2025. They don't really know what they're going to do about first base. Are they going to go out and try to acquire a guy like Pete Alonso or something along those lines to replace him? Because first base is still a question mark, and they could possibly stick Kristian Campbell there if they haven't come to a resolution on their first base situation this offseason, because the Red Sox front office was really adamant on him taking first base reps when he was down in AAA. So that indicates to me that they are considering the idea of him playing first base. However, they also do realize that they have a lot of young talent on this team. they have an established core that took them to the playoffs in 2025. And there's definitely some doubts about whether they picture Kristian Campbell being part of that in the future. And I think the thing to remember the most about Campbell is that he is still developing. There are still going to be things that he needs to work on, but he's the type of player who has a very high ceiling and a lot of potential. So if he gets put in the right spot, he could be huge for a team down the road.
Yeah, and I bring up Kristian Campbell because, I mean, we've mentioned Paul Taboni. He comes over from the Boston Red Sox. He was kind of your assistant GM, and also Devin Pearson, who came over. I think he was also part of your player development system. And so those are two guys who are at the top of this front office who are very familiar with the Boston Red Sox and their top guys. So I also think that kind of makes it even more attractive for our teams to work out a MacKenzie Gore trade. But with Kristian Campbell, I think that right now there is obviously packages that could be done potentially without him, but I feel as if that he would be the big prize for the Nationals to get. I mean, the Red Sox gave him an 8-year, $60 million extension, I believe. He's got a couple of team options in there. He's not a free agent until after 2034. So, like, that is attractive to any team out there that is looking for a young potential star. And he's, again, 23 years old, a 4th-round pick out of Georgia Tech a few years ago. He's kind of the premier guy that I think the Nationals would want in a trade package because, as you said, he's got some versatility there. He can play second base. He can play in the outfield. Now, the Nationals, unfortunately, have this huge logjam in the outfield. They've got that set for the future. You're not really touching that, but they've got a ton of openings at second base, potentially shortstop. They move on from C.J. Abrams. There's a ton of different opportunities there. And I think that Kristian Campbell works out best for both sides. Now, here's the thing, Gabby. It's not just going to take Kristian Campbell. It's going to take more than that. Like, are there...
Yeah.
I mean, is that crazy to think? Honestly.
No, I mean, so, you know, when we think about MacKenzie Gore and everything that we've talked about and the type of pitcher that he could be, because there are some risks there, I do think that lowers the asking price a little bit for what the Nats would expect to get in return. They're not going to have to go and give up 4 prospects like what they got for Garrett Crochet. I'm thinking probably, you know, if they were to give up Kristian Campbell, probably one more piece that they would probably put into that trade. Now, the problem is who would that player be? Because the Red Sox do have some really young, appealing pitching that they could even potentially move to, as long as they round out their rotation to what it's going to be in 2026 with proven talent. They do have a couple players who are kind of in a lull right now of them not knowing if they should have them pitch in the bullpen, if there's a chance that they could make the rotation. They're guys who made a few major league starts in 2025, got called up due to injury, made some starts, have exposure to playing in the majors and showed a ton of potential, but aren't necessarily going to definitively be part of the Red Sox future. So there is some young pitching talent that for sure is going to be probably on the trading block this offseason too, because there's just not really a definitive spot to put all of them right now. And while the Red Sox are obviously going to want to hang on to some of that talent because they're going to want to continue to develop them to potentially be future pieces, there also are a lot of them and a lot of players who are kind of in that boat of, well, we don't really know what our position is on this team. Am I going to be used as a middle relief guy who is a multi-inning pitcher? Am I going to be used in the starting rotation? So there's a lot of uncertainties there, but I do know that the Red Sox are actively going to be at least shopping 1 or 2 of their young pitchers that they don't really feel they necessarily need moving forward because they have guys with similar talents.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a great point. Like, and also, again, like, I feel as if this is now just asking, like, can I please have this player? But, like, Connolly Early, I mean, I would assume with what he did in the second half of the season for you, or he made like 3 starts for you guys, right? Like 1 in the wild card game, which he was incredible with, right?
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely most likely not going to be moved. I think the Red Sox, at least from the impression and that I have and and everything and what I'm hearing, they believe in him a lot. He has a really impressive arsenal for somebody his age, and his development and the way that he was able to move pretty quickly through the Red Sox system, got called up when he did, really stepped up in the majors, because that's hard to ask of a kid. Like, by the way, your 3 major league starts in, you need to pitch in a playoff game.
Crazy.
That scenario is very hard. And again, it was due to injury. So he was forced to pitch because the Red Sox were backed into a wall. But it also showed how much they believe in him and trust him, because putting him in that type of spot shows that they believe in the ability level of him. And he's somebody that I feel like the Red Sox value too much, to the point where they would want to give him an opportunity to be part of that rotation in 2026 and really showcase what he can do in that way, because the way that he was able to show off his arsenal in 2025 is something that they know they can continue to work with. Now, Peyton Tolley is another interesting pitcher who also made his debut in 2025, has a very, very solid fastball. The problem with him is that he's still working on his secondary pitches a little bit. So he ended up getting moved to the bullpen because the Red Sox felt like that was better use of him down the stretch when it came to them trying to clinch a playoff spot. And it more had to do with the fact that he just needs to develop more pitches. However, he also has a ton of upside, and he's somebody who I know the Red Sox would be open to moving, because of the fact that they don't necessarily know if there's a definitive spot for him on this team. And because he's so young, he should go to a team that values player development, because the skill set is definitely there and the potential, no doubt, is there. He just is kind of a little bit of a step down from where Connolly Early is at from a developmental standpoint, just because of the fact that he just needs to work on some secondary pitches. But overall, he's somebody who the Red Sox see a lot of value in. It's just more having to do with, is there really a spot for us to put him? And if the answer is no, that's why I think they'd be open to including him in a trade. Now, the question, though, would be, do they feel like they are willing to give up that caliber of player, both with him and Kristian Campbell, for the risk that they'd be taking to get MacKenzie Gore? And it would have to be something that makes sense for the Red Sox, in terms of they would have to know for sure that those guys wouldn't make sense or don't really fit into the puzzle long term, in order to justify that working. Because obviously we know that with a trade of this caliber, there's going to be risks. And they also were taking risks with Garrett Crochet, but there wasn't as much uncertainty in terms of the ability level as long as he was healthy. So I don't have a doubt in my mind that the Red Sox would make the trade if they feel like it makes sense for them. They just have to know that they would be taking that risk. And I do wonder if they would give the Nats some pushback if they came in and said, yeah, we want Kristian Campbell and Peyton Tolley.
Yeah, I feel as if that's a reasonable ask for the Nationals, though. And again, I think Red Sox fans and Nationals fans, I did do a show on this recently where I was like, hey, Nats fans, this return might be underwhelming, because the big time superstar trade that we made with Juan Soto a few years ago, that's something that you will never see again. So the Nationals fans, they have their eyesights up here, and it's it should be kind of down there a little bit, because again, we talked about the pros and the cons of MacKenzie Gore. They both kind of outweigh each other. And I think that MacKenzie Gore is a great pitcher that will generate a really big return. But I think it's a matter of, again, if Kristian Campbell is available, I think it makes that package a lot easier for you guys. And I think that I think the Nationals could potentially, this is obviously bias coming from me, I think they could swing a potential Connolly Early trade. I can tell you this, though, Paul Taboni, our new president of baseball ops, we've talked about him a few times here, coming over from the Red Sox. In his opening press conference, he raved about Connolly Early. He was kind of asked about the player development and how he would kind of go into it. And so I think that kind of tipped his hand on a potential Red Sox trade. And I think Connolly Early is someone that he raved about every single chance that he could. So I think that the Red Sox are obviously in great hands there, but then also Paul Taboni and company here, they might get a little stubborn and they might say, listen, you got to give us not only Kristian Campbell, but if you're going to try to toss in Connolly earlier or Peyton Tolley, who is the higher prospect to, I mean, I think right now early, everyone is very high on him, especially after that wild card game. But I do feel as if that the Nationals could at least try to command not just Campbell, but also early as well. I don't think that's so crazy. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, they might try. Like, I'm sure they would at least ask the Red Sox about him, but Connolly early feels like the type of player to where the Red Sox would maybe not complete the trade. Because if they don't want to move him, because the thing with this Red Sox organization is that it's been a long time since they've been able to truly develop pitching talent effectively. They just have not been able to do that in the past. They just try, and then they just don't have pitchers that pan out from their own system at the major league level. And it's beyond frustrating.
Tell me about it.
Over the last couple seasons, they've really put an emphasis on pitcher development. Like they've brought people in from the pitching development side to really try to help these kids to reach their maximum potential when they get to the majors. And now they finally feel like that process is starting to work and they're starting to see some results, because you look at these kids like Tolley and Early and what they've been able to accomplish. And it just goes to show that they know they're finally doing something that might be working when it comes to pitching development. And Connolly early could be one of those very first, like really early success stories that the Red Sox have from their own pitching development system. And I just know they really value him. And obviously Taboni himself was talking about how great of a pitcher, he is and the potential there. And I just don't see the Red Sox wanting to budge on that, especially knowing, again, the risks that could come with Gore, and knowing that they've now given Early some playoff experience that's going to be very valuable for him moving forward. And I think the Red Sox are in a place now to where they would much rather move Tolley than move Connolly Early.
Yeah, and I think that all makes sense. Like, again, if I were the Red Sox right now, like I'd be like, Connolly Early is not being traded. But fortunately enough for you guys do have some really good left-handed pitching prospects in this system right now. And a guy that we talked about with Peyton Tolley, but we have yet to mention, is actually a local kid from Northern Virginia, here in the DC area, Brandon Clark. Brandon Clark is actually someone that I saw kind of grew up in high school, went to Alabama, I believe, and was drafted by the Red Sox. And this is a very high upside arm that, again, my boots on the ground, I got to see him pitch in high school. The kid was electric, really good. So I think that obviously having seen him and kind of having understand the prospect that he was, like there were so many MLB scouts at his games back in high school, and seeing this kid really just produce at a very high level, I think that the Nationals could fall back, quote unquote, and get a Brandon Clark type, and also maybe package that in with someone else from some of your systems. Like, I don't know, I'm just kind of throwing names out there, like a Mikey Romero, let's say. But I feel as if that right now, if a MacKenzie Gore trade were to happen to the Red Sox, it starts with Kristian Campbell. And I think that we're kind of in lockstep on that at this point, Gabby. But I do want to kind of crowbar this in recently, because I'm not sure exactly what your guys' needs are, but Jeff Passan did throw out this idea. And obviously, the Red Sox are in a MacKenzie Gore. You guys have been on him since this past summer. And Jeff Passan, I don't know if you saw this, but Jeff Passan threw out the idea that the Nationals could, and teams are calling about not just trading for MacKenzie Gore, but CJ Abrams. Is that a potential Red Sox thing? Like, could you guys be trying to get both? Does that make sense? What do you make of that?
Yeah, it's definitely, obviously, when it's coming from Passan, it feels like it maybe sometimes has more traction. Because it's Jeff Passan. I thought that was really interesting. I think the biggest thing to remember right now when it comes to the Red Sox is that they do feel like they're pretty solidified in a lot of areas. Their biggest needs right now include a starting pitcher and then a power bat to add to the middle of the lineup, because they just never replaced Rafael Devers at the trade deadline after they traded him. Why? I still have no idea to this day why they just decided we want to make a playoff run, but we don't really need a replacement for Rafael Devers. So that's an issue. They need to replace his bat ASAP, like this offseason. So I don't really necessarily see that making sense for the Red Sox right now because they do have Trevor Story locked in at shortstop for the next couple of years. And in terms of infielders, I mean, the Red Sox infield right now is a question mark. It just is. We don't know if Alex Bregman's going to come back to Boston. We don't really know what's going to happen with second base because that also kind of has to do with, what they do this offseason. They could have Marcelo Meyer. They could have him play second base. So there's just a lot that's up in the air right now. I think he could be a good bat that the Red Sox could add to their lineup 100%. But I don't know that they would go so far as to necessarily feel that desire to trade for him right now because there's part of it that's like we don't really know where he would play. And for two, I don't know that they would be that committed to wanting him to the point where they would be willing to give up as much as it would take to get both of them.
Yeah, that's interesting. And again, just kind of crowbarred in that for you, Gabby, but that's a very insightful answer that I think Red Sox fans and Nationals fans could appreciate as well, because I can tell you this much, I'll be talking about that rumor on tomorrow's show. So it's going to be a big one. But Gabby, we are out of time. We could talk about this trade all day, I feel like, but I think we're in a good spot. I think that the Nationals, we trade MacKenzie Gore, we get Kristian Campbell, and we get Peyton Tolley and maybe another prospect. Like, is that a kind of a consensus that we could come with there?
Yeah, I think, again, at the end of the day, we know the potential with Gore, and it's not like they would trade for him and get him for, nothing, because he is a guy who they could slot into the rotation and would most likely help the rotation in the way that they are looking to have this pitching acquisition do, as long as he has some semblance of what you guys saw from him in the first half of the season. And for you guys, that's a lot of young talent that you're getting back, because obviously the Nationals aren't exactly in the same place as the Red Sox right now. Like, the Red Sox should be looking to trade for players who are going to help them win in 2026 and beyond, whereas the Nats are kind of still looking more for that future that they're trying to build and that foundation. And, Kristian Campbell could be a great centerpiece for that. And he's a great guy to move around, and you could play him where it's needed, because you mentioned an overflow of outfielders. So maybe it doesn't make sense to play him in the outfield. He could be more of an infielder, kind of depending on need. Definitely upside there. I definitely think, if the Red Sox were to make this trade, it would be very telling of the fact that they believe in Gore and they feel like he can produce at the level that they want him to produce at. Otherwise, if there's doubts at all about him, and if they feel like they're going to get second half MacKenzie Gore, then they will not make the trade.
Yeah, and I think that goes for the Nationals also. Like, if Kristian Campbell, I mean, obviously I talked about him. I really like Kristian Campbell, and I think the Nationals really like him as well, because a lot of their brass came over from the Red Sox. I think they like Kristian Campbell, so I feel as if that would make most sense. But also, he did struggle a lot this year, so I think that kind of goes into play as well. Like, does his struggles also just kind of outweigh MacKenzie Gore's second half struggles? Like, we don't really know how those conversations can go, and maybe how it could affect the price tag. Like, maybe the Nationals don't just get Tolley and Kristian Campbell, and because of Campbell's struggles, they get more. But maybe the Red Sox are like, whoa, MacKenzie Gore has his struggles as well. We're not going to give up all of these guys for him to potentially not live up to the hype. So I think that this is a very interesting conversation. And I think that also, it sounds like we are in lockstep. This makes sense for both parties. I think the Nationals could get a lot for the future, and the Red Sox, they could get that potential very good number 2 pitcher behind Garrett Crochet, who, in my opinion, does have Cy Young potential.
Yeah, he was a Cy Young finalist in 2025. And if Skubal didn't exist, then he probably wins it. But I mean, they got what they needed and more from Crochet in 2025. So I think that also helps the case for them to justify trying to do the same thing and acquire that number 2 because of the success that they saw come out of the Crochet trade. So if anything, it'll make them a lot less nervous to make that type of trade again, because, I say it on my show all the time, you make that trade for Crochet 10,000 times over, because it just panned out in the way that you need him to. You extended him, so this is a situation now where the Red Sox definitely won't shy away from making that move if they feel like it's the right move for now and for the future. But we'll have to see. I mean, we'll have to see how this pans out. I mean, if Gore ends up getting moved, which he probably should, and whether it's to the Red Sox or not, we'll see. But they're definitely for sure going to at least make that phone call because he kind of fits the mold of the type of pitcher that the Red Sox are going to need to get this offseason.
Yeah, 100%. And obviously we're a little late here. So sorry, Jeff. Sorry, Locked On. But even then, like you mentioned Skubal, like what if Skubal gets traded? Are the Red Sox in on him? I'm just asking that just kind of up in the air right now. But like, do the Red Sox try to go after them? How does that affect the MacKenzie Gore market? I don't think he gets traded, but it's something that I think is some food for thought, especially for a lot of Nationals fans, but also some Red Sox fans. Like maybe you go all in for Skubal, and that could kind of create just a crazy offseason. But
I mean, if Skubal is available, the Red Sox no doubt need to be pulling out all the cards to try to go for him because you cannot turn down the possibility of a 1-2 punch of Skubal and Crochet, the two guys that were the finalists for the Cy Young. Like that's the type of situation where I'm giving up whatever it takes to get a guy like Skubal.
Exactly. And I think that in that situation, like selfishly speaking, that kills the Nationals because like all those teams that are like, we want MacKenzie Gore and we want this potential young stud left-handed pitcher. And it's like, okay, well, how about the best pitcher in baseball who, he's final year of his contract, but best pitcher in baseball, back-to-back Cy Young winner. And that's someone that you want. And like, honestly, I mean, I don't even think this is crazy to say, but like he's immediately your number one in the Red Sox, even over Garrett Crochet. And I love Garrett Crochet. Like that's the best pitcher in baseball.
Yeah, I mean, if you have Garrett Crochet as your number 2, then you're doing something right with the starting rotation. Because I always compare it to the Dodgers rotation, and I'm like, their number 4 would be like a number 2 on this Red Sox team. So like if you have that 1-2 punch of Skubal and Crochet, like that's a rotation that could take the Red Sox to the World Series.
It absolutely could. But Gabby, this was a lot of fun today. I mean, it sounds as if like we've still got a lot to talk through with the Red Sox Nationals trade with MacKenzie Gore. But I mean, as things heat up, I'm sure we'll probably get talking again because I'm sure we'll be in the news again. But Gabby, really appreciate the time.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was so much fun. Always happy to talk baseball with my other fellow Locked On hosts. So happy to do it again, especially if this trade does happen.
Of course, yeah. And if this trade does happen, you'll be seeing both of us. You'll be seeing my face over on Locked On Red Sox, and you'll be seeing Gabby's face over on Locked On Nationals. So hopefully Locked On Red Sox and Locked On Nationals listeners enjoyed today's show. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day, and also the #1 sports podcasting network in America. So that's Gabby from Locked On Red Sox. I'm Ryan from Locked On Nationals. We will catch you guys on the flip side. Have a good one. Go baseball.